Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, in deck number 930, we're getting right on up there. We are going to talk about Jasmine Boreal of the 7. Before we do that, I want to give a big thank you because this deck is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. Thank you out there. If you would like to become a patron, the link is down at the bottom. And Dragon Shield for sponsoring the channel. Now, this is an old deck. This was a deck that I had built before I got my Dragon Shield sponsor, so we will not be showing the sleeves here. Anyway, Jasmine Boreal of the 7. Now, I love this theme. We've only had a couple cards. This is the third card that matters. Add 3 mana, 2/4. Tap to add green and white, and spend this mana only to cast creatures with no abilities. That's wonderful. This is only the third card that cares about vanilla creatures, which now is an extinct thing. They're not making them anymore. Creatures you control with no abilities can't be blocked by creatures with abilities. This is amazing. Now, like I said, it is an old deck. There is some things I need a way to protect her, some boots or cloaks or something, but the premier strategy of the deck is play creatures, turn them sideways, and they just can't be blocked because all of our creatures have no abilities. Now, except for the other card that cares, Ruxa, Patient Professor. She's a vanilla anthem. But you may have creatures you control no ability assign their combat damage so they weren't blocked. That is silly right there. And then, of course, ETBs or attacks, you get something back. So the downside to creatures with no abilities is they don't have a whole lot going for them, right? So we need some ramp to get them out there quicker than, 2 drops on turn 2. So Soul Ring, 3 visits, Rampant Growth, Kodama's Reach, Cultivate, Untamed Wilds, and Skyshroud Claim. Now, as far as card draw, Harmonizes it. But before we get into the actual creatures, because let's face it, they're vanilla creatures, there's not a lot going on there. There's certain things that we can do and certain things we can't do. Like, I did not put an overrun in the deck because that gives them trample and therefore they would lose all their coolness of not being able to be blocked. But what we can do is we can give them just +1s. We can anthem them. So the Gaia's Anthem gives them +1. The Glorious Anthem gives them +1. And yes, the very first card that cared about vanilla creatures was Miranda Petroglyphs all the way back in Future Sight. Creatures with no abilities get +2/+2. The Dictate of Heliod gives +2. And Flash. And then we are playing Celestia, so the Collective Blessing, giving them all the permanent giant growth, is just outstanding. Now, regrowth, because the deck is way more efficient and way meaner than it looks, because most people don't play with creatures with no abilities. The only thing that's out there that really messes you up is when people make tokens. Cycling tokens, especially because they don't have an ability, but a lot of tokens nowadays will have First Strike or have Vigilance or Lifelink or something like that, and that's fine. But the vanilla tokens, I have noticed, tends to be a wall. Regrowth helps you get back the pieces that they have blown up. Rootborn Defenses, populate's not even a real thing in this deck, but I would Heroic Intervention is good. Any anti-wrath here, because we are kind of really committing creatures to the board. Hindsight, I would probably use 2 or 3 of these. Now, our removal category, like I said, there's not a lot, because the idea is to just, because Jasmine comes out at 3 mana, and then instantly, even if you don't drop another land, you're ready to play 5 drops. right? If you drop into the lane, you're ready to play 6 drops. So that's most of what we have are creatures. Turn them sideways bashing, but we do have a disenchant and a sword of plowshare. Now this next one, I realize it's probably a spot. It's very controversial. Tsunami. I don't feel bad about Tsunami at all. Most blue players are never going to let this resolve. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It's a little. I woke up and chose chaos this morning. So I have got my creatures now in converted mana cost order, and I chose these mainly based off flavor and obscurity because it doesn't really matter, you know. Do have the very first cool 1-drop Savannah Lion and his legendary brother Isamaru, Volunteer Militia, Devoted Hero. I tried using. I went through Portal first. I went through Portal 1, Portal 2, Portal 3. Use those first because, I mean, for 1 mana you're going to get pretty much the same vanilla creature. You know, any of the really big ones have some kind of drawback, which is an ability. Norwood Ranger, and then a very, very heavily played Willow Elf. And that brings us to our 2-drops. We have everybody's favorite Squire. It doesn't do anything. Cillian Elf. Now, Watchwolf was a tournament playable card when Ravnica came out. None of us could believe that we got a 3/3 with no drawbacks for 2 mana. And this saw competitive play. It has fallen out of the limelight in such decades, but it's still a great card for this deck. We go to a great card from a not so great card, Barbary Apes. Yes, I chose this card just mainly because most people have never seen it, don't know it exists, and that's funny to me. Glory Seeker, Runeclaw Bear, Raptor Companion. I could have went really deep in the 2 mana 3/1s because like every set for a long time had a 2 mana 3/1 vanilla. And maybe that's the correct route to go since most of our creatures are not getting blocked anyway, and just pumping up that toughness. That may be the right call. Knight Errant, Grizzly Bears, and what's better than a Grizzly Bear? A Balduvian Bear. It's the same card, but Ice Age friendly. Ice Age was the first standalone set that allowed us to play with that set alone. Now we go to our 3-drops. We have the Horizontal Frillback, the 4/2, the Nessian Courser, Regal Unicorn, Trained Armadon, and the Alaborn Trooper. I'm getting kind of close here. 4-drops. This is where it gets interesting. The pie in the sky card is Gigantosaurus. That was the one I was like, okay, I need Gigantosaurus. It was the last card I needed for the deck. I mean, it's a 10/10 for 5 mana. Oh, 5, not 4. Got it in the wrong pile. Y'all know me. Ferocious Zing, Golden Bear, Great Heart, Rowan Treefolk, Pillarfield Ox, Order the Sacred Bell, Foot Soldiers, Southern Elephant from Starter. It was a Portal reprint, I believe. Carnivorous Plant, Brood Hunter Worm, Wild Ceratoc. And like I said, I'm just rolling through these quickly unless I have a funny story about it. Redwood Treefolk, the Moss Monster. You don't see this in a lot of decks, and rightly so. Ironroot Treefolk from all the way back, baby. That's right. Spined Worm, Plated Worm, Darkwood Boars, Panther Warriors. Now I've only got 2 6-drops, the Barbtooth Worm, and I had to use that specific version, the Revised Crawl Worm, because let's face it, the Revised Crawl, that was magic to a lot of people back then. I mean, we were all about it. enormous Baloth, and we're topping it out with, guess it, you know me. That's right, Scaled Worm. Scaled Worm's a beautiful card, so especially when it's not blockable. And that leads us to our non-basic lands. We have the Naya Panorama, of course, the Evolving Wilds, the Searches, Terramorphic Expanse. As many creatures as we have in the deck, Ancient Ziggurat is proving phenomenal in the deck. The Vivid Grove and the Vivid Meadow. Selesnya Sanctuary, Gilgate, Blossoming Sands, Arctic Tree Line, Secluded Steppe, Sun Petal Grove, and Canopy Vista. And that is what Jasmine is, deck number 930. It's a lot of fun to play. It is very, very efficient. So if you sit down across from somebody that runs one of these, don't take it for granted. Don't do it. But that's all I've got for today. I do appreciate y'all watching, and we're going to go ahead and shuffle and cut.